how are you? Today we are going to talk about a very interesting topic which I will which I think some people would be offended by. Some people would really like what I'm talking about. You can have polarizing views. But one thing I'm extremely sure of, that this episode will make you think. This video will make you rethink your entire childhood, and maybe if you are at a place where you're going to have babies and kids, and if you already have babies and kids, I think it will give you some perspective. Now, right out of the bat, I want to say that I am not a parent. I don't know what it takes to raise a child, as a sense that raising a child requires a village, and I understand that. Raising not only a child but a human being is the biggest and the most difficult task that's out there. However, I have been a child myself, and I think a lot about my child, especially because for the past 2 years, as an adult, as an earning, mature adult, I'm staying in my parents' house, and I'm thinking about a lot of patterns. And I've done a full video on what it was to grow up as a single child, and I'll link it here. But that video also came about because there was a lot of deliberation on my side about my childhood. And I want to add that this is not about blaming my parents or blaming your parents or blaming other parents who might be doing these things, who might be saying these 10 things to their kids. It's not about blaming, it's about growth. It's about maybe putting a fresh perspective out there. So without any further ado, let's talk about 10 things that parents should not say to their kids. And let's go. Okay. Number 1. A parent should never say to a kid, look how the other kid is doing. Whether it's studies or sports or extracurriculars or their mental growth or their behavior or whatever. Parents often think that comparison and competition will always motivate their kids to do better in life, and it will contribute to their mental, physical, emotional growth. However, I think it happens in an opposite way, because it takes a lot of maturity to take competition in a healthy manner. A lot of kids aren't able to do that. If I have to speak about myself, I wasn't able to do that. I hated it when my parents, on some times when they compared me to other kids, I hated that. Because I could see that a lot of things that they were able to do, I'm not able to do, because kids function differently. And it's not like I'm not trying hard. It's just that I could see that we function differently and we think differently and we like different things. Like, for example, if a kid is really good in sports, good for that person. But I am not a sports person. I write, I read, I am good in academics, I think differently. Words are what really, really motivate me. I'm a good singer. I used to think about those things. But I would always get compared. What happens? The biggest drawback that can happen in your child's life when you start comparing that child to other children of their age group is that child learns that he or she needs to compare himself or herself with her peers. So when the kid goes to school or college or a job or wherever, there is a sense of competition in his or her head, and that competition is never healthy, because as a result of that comparison, the parents would always say, look how he's so good and you are so bad. And that competition and sense of inferiority or superiority is always like ingrained in that kid's mind. And that hinders that kid from having honest, genuine friendships and a sense of healthy competition, which is really, really required for that kid to function really well in his or her age group. So that is point number 1. Point number 2. Never say to your other kid that you failed because you're lazy. Parents should always analyze their kids' failure. If a kid comes to you and says, I got like 5 marks out of 10, I got 40 marks out of 100, whatever, you should be like, why that happened? And then let the kid admit that the kid was lazy. You don't go in and say, you did that because you're lazy. What if the kid had a fever that day and you didn't know about that? What if the kid is getting bullied in school? What if the kid is going through puberty and is just confused? There could be a lot of what ifs. And if you just go over there and start scolding that kid because that kid failed, what will happen is that kid will forever be demotivated to come with you with a bad report card. with the news of failure, whether it's personal, academic, financial, professional, no matter what. Parents should be a safe space that kids can come and announce their failure. They should never be like, oh my god, I'm going to get a scolding, and they're going to, react and blow it out of proportion. So let's not talk about failure. Then what they do? They will start hiding their report cards. They will start lying. They'll start cheating because they know that going to their parents with a failure is not an option. And I don't think that's the impression that parents should give to their kids. Every time a failure happens, not reason of every failure is not laziness. Maybe they need to change the schedule. Maybe the kid is overwhelmed. There could be n number of reasons, and you need to analyze that before jumping into a conclusion that the kid is lazy and is just not doing enough. Number three and number four are very gender specific. Number three is telling your daughter, your female child, that you should learn how to cook because you're a girl. Women are so much more than just entities who cook in the kitchen and clean the houses. Never tell your kid that you need to learn how to cook because you're a girl and that's what your destiny is leading up to. You need to, no matter if you have a female and a male child, you should actually sit them down and teach both of them cooking. Because cooking is a survival skill and everyone should know it. When I was 10 years old, my father told me how to make tea. That was the first thing that I ever made in life. And that was great because he never told me that, and I was never given an impression that I must learn how to cook because I'm a girl and I'm supposed to do that. It was never the impression. And I'm glad that it was never. I don't have a brother, so I don't have a standpoint of comparison. But still, I was never given an impression that cooking is a very big thing that I need to learn because of my gender. And nothing should be taught to kids based on their gender. And these gender stereotypes should not be labeled and forced on your small kids who obviously have really impressionable minds. Number 4 is telling your male child to not cry because you are a boy. I've seen a lot of mothers, lot of elders do that with the children in their houses. Why? If your son is hurt, let him cry. He's a child. And sometimes crying is so organic, something happens and then you just well up. And crying is a very normal physical reaction. Yes, it's emotional, but tears can come up in any time, and tears don't know gender. Your eye ducts don't know gender. Eyes are the same whether it's boys or girls, men or women or whatever. So let them cry and express themselves, and please do not teach the boys, the sons of your house, to bottle up their emotions because that's not very boy-like or a masculine thing to do. Let boys cry for God's sake. Number 5. If your kid is an introvert, if your kid does not have a lot of friends, please do not tell your kids that you don't have friends because you're a terrible human being, because your behavior is not so nice, because you're not a nice company, whatever. Ask them why don't you have more friends, ask them why you're not more social, and not everyone wants to have a large circle of friends. And I honestly think this is the theory that I have for a really long time, and I'm going to tell you that. Every person who has a really large circle of friends, half of them are just superficial or people that they just hang out with or are friends of friends. Not every person cannot have 10 true friends. It's just impossible. The maximum number is probably 5. So it's good that your kid has a notion and idea of not having superfluous or meaningless friends. He or she just wants to have meaningful friends, and that's a great level of maturity that's coming from your kid. Maybe your kid is getting bullied at school. Maybe your kid has something else going on. Maybe your kid is just not happy. Maybe your kid has just not met the people that he or she can match their wavelength with. Also, maybe that kid is not able to have a friendship without comparing himself or herself with his peers, because that happens as explained in the first point. So just talk to them, and if you're worried about them not having a larger circle and a social life, just please don't blame it on their behavior or nature, that you're too demanding, you're too moody, you're too this, you're too that. Speak with them, and maybe if you feel like that their nature or their attitude probably is a factor, then just explain it to them gently, because that could be a really big thing that, oh, nobody likes me in my school and college, and my parents also see a point in them not liking me. So that could be a very big factor, and that could really damage the mental health of your kids. Which brings me to my next point. Do not tell your kids that mental health or bad mental health is an excuse. things. It's not an excuse. Your kid can be depressed. He or she could have anxiety. He or she could have issues related to puberty. You don't even know. Your kid maybe is dealing with his or her sexuality. You don't know. There could be n number of reasons, and mental health is not a myth. It's like telling your kid that you have 103 temperature, but I think it's just in your mind. Just because we don't have a thermometer to check depression or anxiety, it doesn't mean that it does not exist. You can also not see air, but it exists. So whenever your kid says that, I am having anxiety or a panic attack, or I feel depressed, I feel alone, take them to a therapist. Make sure that your kid understands that they live in a household where their mental health is of importance and is of value. Please do not tell them that this is all in your head, or that you're making up an excuse, or you are just being a brat. They are not. If your kid's mental health is not up to a point, no matter what kind of facilities you give them, no matter how much money you spend on other things, sending them to the best of the school, getting them all the gadgets they need, whatever, they are not going to be fine till their mental health is fine. And if their mental health is not fine, they would not be able to do well on any of the fronts, whether it's academics, sports, whatever. Don't do that to your kids. Number 7. Never tell your kids that travel is a waste of time. See, I grew up not traveling, and I regret that. And obviously nobody took me for traveling. I never got a permission from my parents to travel when I was in college. And as soon as I started earning, the pandemic hit. So it became a huge thing, you guys. I regret that I have not traveled much, and that's the only regret I have. There were times when I got a little bit less marks, when my mental health was not fine. Obviously, success always comes at a very slow pace to me, so I understand all that. But my only regret is that I have not traveled. Maybe because my parents or whatever, there was an idea in my family that maybe travel is a waste of time, waste of money. But I feel like it's very important for kids to travel. Of course, they would not be able to grasp those trips as they would when they are adults, but they would at least remember that, when I was a child, I went with my parents to this happy trip, and it would make a happy memory. That we saw camels, that we went on the beach. That's what beaches looks like, and that's what mountains look like. That's what rivers look like. That's what it is to sit in a flight, or sit in a boat, or sit in a train. And all of these things really shape a child's mind, and a child needs that. So you need to encourage children to indulge in things that make them better human beings, and definitely I think for their overall development, travel is the thing that you should invest in. Number 8, never tell your kids and never convince your kids to do something because you are telling them to do. Look, children are curious human beings, and their minds are developing, and you need to give them a space for them to question things. Whether it is religion, whether it's anything socio-political, whether it's things related to safety, you need to tell them why are you instructing them to do a certain thing, the reason of it. Do not kill their curiosity. If they're questioning things, it's good. That means they're using their brains. It's a very great thing. And that gives an indicator of a healthy intellectual development. Don't shut their questions up. Tell them, maybe if you're getting too overwhelmed and maybe annoyed and you're trying to do something and they're just bombarding you with questions, just tell them, write down your questions. Or give me 1 hour, I'll come to you, then ask me how many questions you have, just collect all your thoughts. So that will, help them to jot down their curiosity and also collect their thoughts and then speak to you. But don't tell them that I'm telling you to do this because I'm the authority figure. Always inspire your children, especially your daughters, to question authority, because then they will really suffer as adults, whether it's a political figure, whether when your daughter marries and goes to the other house, for her to question her partner or question her in-laws or whatever, she will find it difficult, because childhood really shapes how we function as adults. So you really have to teach your kids to ask questions and not have an ardent belief or adoration or almost like a worship type of feeling for an authority. Number 9, you don't tell your kids that they are naturally good or bad at something. Don't tell your kids first of all that they are gifted. A lot of kids, they really whittle down. They really suffer because they feel like they're gifted and they come under that pressure And when they fail, whether as an adult or as a kid or as a teenager, they are not able to handle that failure because, excuse me, I was the gifted one. How can I fail? They obviously feel like that. And you have to spare them this torture. I was told a lot of times that I'm really intelligent. So whenever I got a little bit of less of a mark, where I could not clear my entrance exam in the first go, where I was not the smartest person in my law school, I felt like a really dumb person, and it ensued depression, anxiety, everything. Even today, I make a simple mistake and I just start spiraling. Like if I just overlook one thing, like one spelling mistake or one word here and there in a draft of like several pages, I really over criticize myself. And because I was told not only by my parents, everyone that, oh my god, you do so well, so you need to do well and you need to do good and you need to be the best. And that was an overwhelming position to be put in. Full disclosure, I was not the best. I was just among people who were good and I needed to be there. Similarly, I was told that I was bad at a lot of things. I was not a great artist. I was really bad at athletics and I was told that almost every single month. I was not a good dancer and I was made to feel like that since I was like in UKG. So I get that, and anytime somebody asks me to dance, I feel like I'm just withholding myself because I know this has been ingrained in my mind that I can't dance. We need to change that mindset. We need to tell our kids that work ethic, patience, perseverance, if you put your mind towards things, things can happen for you. Yes, there is always going to be a luck factor involved, and yes, people do have some sort of natural talent in few things. However, that is just one of the factors that will lead you up to something. You should never keep drilling in your kid that they are gifted or they are ridiculous at things. And number 10, which is the point that I really would like to lay a lot of emphasis on, is that never tell your kids that they are lying when they are telling you about somebody bullying them, somebody disrespecting them, somebody touching them in an inappropriate manner, especially when they are family members. Don't tell them that, oh, you're lying. You should not disrespect your elders. How dare you make up stories? Maybe you're watching too much TV, that's why you're reproducing all of those things. Always believe your child. Think about it. You are comparing your child who is obviously innocent and has not been exposed to the concept of lying and concept of sex that much, and in comparison to a grown-up adult who obviously knows so much about sex. So who do you believe now? Your child who does not even know properly what his or her private parts are. If that kid is coming to you and tell you that he or she has been touched inappropriately, first of all, how do they get to that? How do they even get to, their minds are not developed to make up such a lie. So always believe your kid. Second thing, always tell them what good touch and bad touch is, and always tell them that you are a safe space that they can come up to with their complaints. I think when we keep on saying that no, you're lying, no, you're doing this, no, you're doing that, that kid ends up having maybe a Stockholm syndrome. That kid ends up maybe distrusting themselves and being like, okay, maybe I'm lying. Don't gaslight your own child. Don't motivate them to not trust their own feelings and instincts. When an elder tells them to come sit on their lap, that kid has an intuition. And that kid says that, okay, maybe this is not a safe space. I do not feel safe in the lap of that elder. You are saying that, oh, that elder is just showing their love and adoration to you. Then that kid's like, okay, maybe my mom is right. Maybe I'm overthinking it. And that kid then again disbelieves or distrusts his or her own instincts and believes the elder. So these were the 10 things that I believe that no matter what age, what background, what society, what country you come from, you should always, these 10 things kids should never be told to by their parents. The relationship that parents and kids have should be built on trust, should be built on safety, and should be built on a lot of caution. You're not only raising kids, you're raising future adults. I hope all the kids and all the parents watching a very, very beautiful relationship with your kids and parents respectively. I really wish you all the best. And I'll see you guys in the next one.